It's a very good time meeting you. My name is John Kokasumadin, and I am going to be taking you through Social Studies Primary 5. In this discussion, we are going to be looking at the second topic we have in Primary 5, Term 3. That's why you see on our board we have Primary 5, Term 3 work, and the topic is about the government of Uganda. When we have a topic like this, dear viewer, there are some words that we need to get used to. I mean, we need to be able to define them and we need to be able to write them correctly. One of these words, we can call them common words. One of them is the very word government. Government, you will find this one is having this silent N, which you are supposed to write it when you're having this spelling. The other word we are having is what we call authority. We have the word authority. That is our second word that we are going to be looking at. And then the other word is what we call rule. Rule. As a primary 5 child, when we see the word rule, sometimes we get lost. We bring rule and then we connect it to a ruler, which is very bad. Still here we shall have the word ruler, fine, but we are not meaning this. We are meaning a person who rules, which means we shall be looking at an administrator. The other word that we are going to have is, we are going to look at words like monarchy. We shall look at other words like dictatorship. We shall also have words like citizenship in this very topic. Citizenship, which comes from the word citizen. And then we shall also have the word democracy. We shall have democracy as well as democratic. All those words, we shall be meeting them here. Now, without wasting time, we are going to begin our lesson by defining. Having looked at this, we are going to look at what we mean by government. So we are going to have our question: what is government? Like I said, government has that silent N, then we write ment. Since it's a question, we shall put a question mark there. What is government? Or what do we mean by the term government? Now, our answer is the term government, don't forget the silent N, government refers to a group of people given the authority. Given the authority, we are now beginning to use our words. Given the authority, this authority is what we can also term as power, given power to rule. Our next word comes in, others. That is the definition for the word government, or for the term government. The term government refers to a group of people given the authority or power to rule others. We shall choose one. If we go by authority, we don't again say or power. We can use one to make it simple. Or we can say government is a group of people given the power to rule others, which means we are looking at the people who have that power to rule others, meaning to head others. others are under them. They are the leaders. That group of people is what we call government. We are going to look at the two levels of government. Levels of government. We are going to have two levels of government. We are going to have two levels of government. Number one, we shall have what we call the central government. Remember I said, whenever we are writing government, there is that silent N. We have the central government, and then we shall also understand what we call the local government. Now, the local government, this is the government which begins at the district level. You can be asked that question. What name do we give to the government which starts at the district level? That is, of course, the local government. Then we have the central government. The central government, we can also call it the national government. This is the government where now, where we look at now the president heading it, and we're not looking at where we have these the capital city. We're not looking at the modern government. In other words, we have got the differences that we have between the central government and the local government on that page 41 in terms of the performance or the roles they do. We are saying the first one says the central government is made up of only one government, while we are having very many local governments in the country, which means we shall have one central government. But when we look at the local government, like we have said, the local government begins at the district level, which means every district stands for a local government. And for that case, we shall say we have very many local governments. The second difference is the national government runs the major facilities in the country. For example, we have it responsible for managing the big hospitals, those referral hospitals. We have it responsible for managing the major roads. Then when we come to the local government, of course now we look at this one, responsible for managing or for controlling the lower health facilities like the health centers. Then we have also these other dispensaries. Those are the ones that are managed. And then also construction of the other feeder roads when it comes to the roadside. Those are the differences that we have on that page 41. And then also, it gives us the administrative unit or the administrative breakdown of the local council or of the local government. That's why we have that table saying levels of the local government. We have in our workbooks, we have the local council 5. We have the local council 5. These are the labels in the local government, levels in the local government. So here we are having on our table, we have got 3 columns. The first column is giving us the label, then the other one is giving us the area, and then the title of the political leader. So we have the label, area, and then the title given to that political leader. Now, here we are going to have the local council, the local government running right away from the topmost administrator, that is what we call the local council 5 chairperson. Or if we are looking at the council itself, we shall call it the local council 5. Now, this local council 5 is managing the area that is now the whole district. That is now the level of the district. And of course, this one is under the local council 5 chairperson. That is the person who heads local council 5 chairperson. That's why when we were in primary 4, we were answering a question: who is the political head of a district? And we said the local, the districts belong to that local council. That local government. That is the local council 5 chairperson. We don't only say chairperson, but we have to be very specific. Which chairperson? Because we shall have very many other people on that committee. So it's the local council 5 chairperson. Next is we have local council 4. Now, as the other one was for the district, the local council 4 is for the area that we call a county. Of course, this is the title given to that person is the local council 4. Sometimes we don't use this. You will find we shall write like this: local council 5, local council 4, chairperson. Then we move downwards. We come to the local council 3. The local council 3 is at the level of the sub-county. At the level of the sub-county. So at the level of the sub-county, this is going to we are going to have the title. That is, we can call this person the local council 3 chairperson, or we can call this person the sub-county chief, local council 3 chairperson. Or we can call this the sub-county chief, sub-county chief. We continue. From local council 3, we shall go to local council 2. This is at the level of a parish. The title of the leader is the local council 2 chairperson. Sometimes also known as the parish chief. Parish chief. Then we have lastly local council 1. Local council 1. Remember in P3, in P4, we talked about LC1. So this is now the one, the level of the local council 1. This is now for the area we call a village. And the person is of course the local council 1 chairperson. That is the one who heads this. So for that we shall have understood what is on that table. Those are the labels that we have at the local government, or that is the setup of the local government. So we shall need to understand we have the smallest administrative unit, that is the local council 1. And then we have also, the smallest unit is the village. The smallest administrative unit or area is the village, which is under the local council 1 chairperson. Of course, that is now the LC level, LC1. And from here we run up to the highest, which is a district, which is at the level of local council 5, run by the district chairperson that we also call LC5 chairperson. We can also call this district chairperson. I want you to be aware of this also. District chairperson. So that is the local council 5 chairperson. All these people they all belong to political leaders, which means they are voted into power by the people. So these are the levels under that local government. Of government, types of government. Now, the types of government, just like we looked at the labels, are different now. We are going to have the types, that is the way under which the government is operating. Here, we are going to be looking at the types. Like one, we have what we call democratic government. That's why I was putting the other common one, democracy. It brings us what we call a democratic government. Now, what do we mean by a democratic government? This is a system of governance whereby the leaders or the people who are in power are voted by the people in that country. For example, when we look at Uganda, our country, you will find that when it comes to issues of elections, our leaders, like the presidents, are voted for by the people. You find they will always campaign, and that day for voting is fixed. That is the day we understood in the previous lesson as a polling day. And on that day, people go and they vote for the leaders of their choice. So you'll find that the one who will have got very many ballots or votes than others will be the one who will become the leader. So that kind of government whereby the leader or the leaders are chosen or are elected by the people is what we call a democratic government. Then secondly, we have what we call a dictatorial government. Dictatorial. From the word dictator. Of course, a dictator, this is a leader who does not, or who rules people according to his or her own wish. No one is to say a word. Whatever he or she says is what people are to go by. That is what we call a dictatorial government. So, from the word dictator, it brings what we call dictatorial government. Now, this kind of government, we had it in Uganda. That is from 1971. We are having it there up 1979. Now, what was happening here? That is the time when we had General Idi Amin Dada. Remember, we said Idi came to power through organizing a military coup, which saw Obote out of power, and he now ruled. And during his time of office, he could pass what we call decrees. The decrees are the unquestionable laws that a leader brings out. Like I said, whatever the leader wants to take place is what everyone should follow. Which means to him, there was no parliament that was to make laws, but himself, he was the parliament. He was the one to bring out what he wants, and everyone was to follow that very fast. Failure, then you were to be given a serious punishment. So that kind of leadership, or that kind of government, is what we term as a dictatorial government. And the leader who has such a system, or who has such policies, such ways of doing things, is the person, the leader we call a dictator. Next, we have what we call the monarchical government. Monarchical government, from the word monarchy. monarchical government. Monarchical government, monarchies, we must have talked about this when we are looking at or what banning all monarchies. Here we look at cultural institutions. For example, kingdoms, which means we are looking at a country which is having a traditional leader like a king or a queen as the head of state. That is the government we call a monarchical government. It's a type of government which is headed by a traditional leader such as a king or a queen. Then we also have what we call autocratic government, whereby we are saying is the type of government autocratic, meaning for one person, autocratic government. We are saying this is the type of government where power belongs to one person. And then we also go now to look at, we shall also be having other types of government. We shall be looking at that as we continue with our learning to other classes, that is up to primary 7 level. We also have to understand that much as we have types of government, we also have the systems of government. Now, these things are going now to a little become a challenge to us if we are not following them well. We began with labels of government, whereby we talked of the local government, the central government. Now we went to the types of government. We have them here. Now we are going to the systems. The systems, we are going to have 3 of them. Mainly we have 2. That is single party system. Single party system. And then we shall also have what we call multi-party system. Now, after us understanding that, we shall also understand what we call the federal system. Federal system of government. Now, what do we mean by single party system? What do we mean by multi-party system? And what do we mean by federal system of government? Now, our page 42 gives us these 3 types, these 3 systems. One, single party system, as we can understand the word single, which means one, which here now it shall say, this is the system of governance which is made up of one political party. Then remember in the topics that is in the second term, we learned about the reactions of Ugandans towards the colonial rule. We say that Ugandans started forming political parties, and the political parties, we say they were formed to demand for the independence of Uganda. And we say today the political parties are formed to demand for what we call political power, that is to gain political power. And then the multi-party system, multi means many or more, which means we are looking at the system of governance whereby a country has got many political parties. That makes us to understand that Uganda has that system of governance, because when we look at Uganda, you will find that we have very many political parties in Uganda today. We shall have NRM is there, we have FDC is there, we have the National Unity Platform, we have Alliance for National Transformation, we shall have People's Progressive Party, we have Conservative Party, we have UPC still there, we have Democratic Party, that is DP there, and other political parties. There are very many political parties in Uganda, which means Uganda has this multi-party system of governance. Remember, at the same time, Uganda has this type of government that is democratic. because we say in Uganda, people are given the authority, people are given the power, the right to vote for the people of their own choices, to vote for their own leaders. Of course, that is promoting democracy, bringing out what we call a democratic government. Next one is a federal system of governance, whereby we are saying this is the system of governance or government where different states come together and have important powers to take or to make as decisions. That is about the federal system of government. On that very page 42, just like we had also a page in the previous one about the local government, we also have a table showing the highest civil servants in the highest areas. We have Kampala Capital City Authority. Remember, this is the body we learned even in primary 4. That is KCCA. That is the body which manages the affairs of Kampala City. And that one is headed by the person given the title as the executive director. Then we have a ministry which is headed by the permanent secretary, and then we have a district that is headed by the district. We are having two things. We have the political head, and when we talk about the political head, we are meaning at the one voted by the people, voted for by the people. That is the local council 5 chairperson. And then if the question is just talking about the civil servant heading the district, that's why here we are talking about civil servants. Now here, we shall not now bring the political head, but now we talk about the civic leaders. Remember, we talked about leadership in P4. We had those political leaders, then we had the civic leaders. Now, with the civil servants, we are now looking at that side of the civic leaders, whereby we have the chief administrative officer as the highest civil servant in a district. And then we go to the county, that is the town clerk, and then we have the sub-county, where we have the sub-county chief, and then the parish, we shall have the parish chief, and then also we have the village, where we have the village chief. These ones are on the side of the civil servants. We go to the note, which tells us that the highest level of the local government is the district. This one I had already explained it in the previous discussion. For that, we shall be able to move to our page 43, which gives us the organs of a democratic government. Like we say, Uganda is one. Organs. We can also call these structures, or we can call them arms of government, or we can say arms of a democratic government. This word democratic should not make you to get lost. Government. Now, what we need, we are saying this is a system of governance whereby the citizens are given the authority to exercise their power. They are given the freedom to exercise their power. How? We have given an example. They are given that power to choose for the leaders of their own. Now, what we are going to begin saying here is democracy. We must have learned that it began in Athens, and we said in Athens the people were few. Therefore, everyone was represented in the government in the 3 arms or in the 3 structures or organs, as we are going to list. Number 1, we have what we call the executive arm, or we can say executive organ, the same. 2, the second one, we shall be having what we call the judiciary arm of government. And then lastly, we shall be having what we call the legislative arm of government. This is what we can call the legislature, or we can also call it the National Assembly, or the national, or we can call it the Parliament. That is about that one. We shall come to that. Let's begin this one by one. And on that page, we begin with the first, that is about the executive organ of government. I said we can call it organ or structure. Don't get lost. Here I have used the arm, here I have used the organ. We are saying they are the same because we need to be aware of both words. Tomorrow they can ask you, write down any two organs of government. For you, you are used to arms and you might think these are different things, yet it is the same. That is the reason as why I bring both of them, so that we understand them well. Now here we shall be saying the executive organ forms what we call the ruling organ of the country. This is the ruling organ of the country. Again, we get the word ruling. From the word rule, as we had, this is the ruling organ of a country. And what we shall also need to note is that it is headed by the president, which means the president is the head of this executive organ of government. Remember, the president rules, he is the final leader of a country. That's why you'll find that he is the person who makes the final decision in the country, or he is the one who is taken as the topmost leader in a country. So that is the arm of government that we call the executive arm. That is where we have the president heading. Therefore, we shall also be looking at other people who form these organs. Like we shall be looking at people like the vice president, people like, we shall have other people who form, before we come to the duties, let's look at people who form the executive organ of government. The executive organ of government. We can say we have the president, and we say the president is the president is the head of this organ. Then we have the vice president. The vice president is here. We talked about cabinet ministers. Cabinet ministers. And then we have civil servants. Civil servants. These are people working with the government in providing social services. That is where we have people like the police, the teachers, the doctors, all those people form or come under the civil servants. Then we have the duties. The first duty says to plan and rule. Remember, we say this is the ruling organ, which means its duty is to plan for the country and to rule the country. Secondly, it implements government programs, or to implement the programs which are set up in the country to make sure things which are agreed on are really done. And then we have maintaining peace and security in a country. Remember, we have talked about the civil servants like the police, so you can we cannot go away without mentioning keeping peace and security in the country. And then to supervise the programs of the government. And then finally, we are saying to spend government finances as approved and planned. We go to page 44. Page 44 continues to give us the duties of the president. That is alongside what we have already discussed there. The duties of the president: one, we have to provide social services to the people. That is the first we are having on that page. Then secondly, the president is to rule the country. We say he is the final person, he is the topmost leader, so he has to plan and he rules the country. And then he also has to defend the country from any attack. That's why you'll find if there is anything like insecurity, maybe there are some security threats in an area, the president has to give a speech on the status of the security in that area or in the country, such that people are aware. So it means that he is the father of the country, which means he's supposed to ensure that his country is protected, is peaceful, just like your dad at home. You will find he is the one responsible to ensure that you are protected, you have peace and security at home. The president is also responsible for appointing other civil servants, like we have the judges, we have the cabinet ministers, and other executive organs, including the vice president. He is the one to appoint those other people. That is also his duty. And then he is supposed to grant what we call amnesty to criminals. Sometimes you find that there can be a criminal who has maybe been given life imprisonment, that's what we call life sentence. The president can pardon, can give the person, maybe can make the person to be out. That is in case he or she wants. So it's all about that. And then we are saying he is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, like for us in Uganda, that is President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The armed forces, we talked about this in primary 4. That is where we talk about people who provide us with security, like we have the police, we have the soldier, the army, those are the soldiers, we have the private security guards, the prisons, the local defense units, LDUs, all those ones form what we call the armed forces. So we have the president, who is the chief, the commander-in-chief of those armed forces. Next is we look at, on our page 45, gives us the second organ that appears on our board as the last one. We shall come back to the executive. We are going to the legislature. So our first one was here. Secondly, we shall be having the legislature. That I said, we can also call it Legislative Assembly, or we can call it the National Assembly, or we can call it the Parliament. Now, as we can see, the Parliament, which means we are now going to look at what is in the Parliament. Now, what we are going to say is that this is the law-making body. It is the law-making body. This is the main role of the Parliament. It's a law-making body in a country, which means it is responsible for making and amending the laws that are used in a country. In the previous topic, we were looking at Uganda as an independent nation, and we talked about the characteristics of a nation, like a nation having its own its own constitution. So we will find that these laws, which are set or amended, are documented in that constitution, which the people of Uganda are supposed to be following. So that is about the Parliament. This Parliament is headed by the person given the title as Speaker of Parliament. Not just Speaker, because if you write only Speaker, they will cross you. Because which speaker are you meaning? Are you meaning the speaker of the radio? Are you meaning the speaker of your television set? So you need to be specific. Speaker of Parliament. Don't just write such naked answers which will make the teacher to deny your man. This is the Speaker of Parliament who heads this. However, not only the Speaker of Parliament, we also have other people like the members of Parliament. Members of parliament. We are now looking at other people who form that parliament. The members of parliament, since we have written members, we can write it in short as MPs. If it was one, we would call this member of parliament and will not put S. It will now remain as MP. Now, who is this person we call a member of parliament? A member of parliament is a person who is voted for by the people to represent his or her constituency. That is the constituent representative at that parliament. And then we also have remember we have both the men and then we have also both men and women. We have what we call the women representative, woman MP, let me say. So that is the one who is, so in every constituency you will find there is that member of parliament, then there is a woman member of parliament. We shall be looking at that under other special groups. We have other special groups of people at the parliament, but mainly it is composed of the members of parliament. That's why you find that even this speaker of parliament, she or he is also a member of parliament who will be voted for by other members for him or her to become the leader there. So we have other people at the parliament who stand to represent other groups of people. We call them the special groups representative. We have the member representing the army. We have the workers representative. We have the one representing the youth, that is the youth MP. We have the one representing women, as I had already said this. And then we also have those that represent the disabled. Those are persons with disabilities, PWDs. Persons with disabilities. Which means we are looking at people who have disabilities like those who are the lame, the dumb, the blind, the deaf. All those are what we call disabilities. Remember, it is not inability. So that is, those are other members who are found in the parliament, helping in that making of the laws. We also have the ministers without constituencies, and then these are the ones we call the ex-officials. They have no voting powers. Therefore, we are now going to look at the development of a law at the parliament. That is on page 45. We are saying a law is proposed as a bill. That is what you are having there. A bill. A bill. A bill. Remember, we say these people make laws, and when they are proposing it, it is proposed as a bill. That's why we say a bill is a proposed law in parliament. So after this law has been proposed by a member of parliament, this law will be discussed and it will be taken to the president. Why? For the president now to endorse, to sign. Now, if the president signs it, it means it will now be made, this bill will be made a law. That is a question that we can be asking you. When does a bill become a law? A bill becomes a law after the president has signed on it, or after the president has signed it. That is when it becomes a law. So that is what we have there. And then an act is an approved bill by the parliament and then signed by the president. Then it will be documented as the law. We have the administrators or the leaders at the parliament. We have page 46. We have already said the parliament is headed by the person given the title Speaker of Parliament. This Speaker of Parliament is also having a person who deputizes him or her. That is the one we call the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Just like when we look at our school, you will find that the school is under the leadership of the head teacher. But you will find that next to the head teacher is the deputy head teacher. who assists the head teacher. So that is also what happens here. We have the head, and we have the Speaker of Parliament, then we have the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. That's the one who can also chair the parliamentary meetings in the absence of the Speaker of Parliament. Remember, these people are to chair parliamentary meetings. To chair means they preside over these parliamentary sessions or meetings. And then we also have what we call the clerk to the parliament. The clerk to the parliament, we are saying this is the one who acts as the secretary to record the parliamentary proceedings or minutes that we call Hansards. Hansards. So if you are asked what are Hansards, these are parliamentary proceedings. Parliamentary proceedings. Of course, these parliamentary proceedings are recorded by the clerk to the parliament. Then we have the next leader, that is the sergeant at arms. The sergeant at arms, this is the person responsible for the security of at that parliament or in the parliament house. You'll find this is the person who leads or who escorts the Speaker of Parliament to take up his or her seat, and then he is also responsible for ensuring security in the Parliament, such that when the members of Parliament are discussing issues in the House, no other people can bring insecurity to them. They are safe. That is what we have. All those are the people who form the Parliament leadership. The next word given to us is what we call a constituent, and then it comes from the word constituency. I said constituency is that administrative area which is headed by the member of Parliament. Now, a constituent is a person who lives in that constituency, and he or she has that right to vote. Remember, these members of Parliament are political leaders, which means we vote for them to go to power. So the person who is at that constituency, who votes these people, is the one we call a constituent. Then we got the duties of Parliament. We have already said the first one, which is the major one, to set and amend the laws. And then apart from that, the Parliament is also responsible for approving the national budget, to approve the national budget. And then we talked about the president appointing some leaders, and you will find that after these leaders have been appointed, it is the president to approve. So we shall also have that point here, to approve public officers who are appointed by the president. That point is there in your book. And then it is also responsible for monitoring the expenditures of the government, that's called government expenditure, to check and find out if the government money has been spent the way it was meant to. Of course, if they don't, they will have to ask some questions to the people responsible. Then finally, not the least, we have to check the work of the executive and to pass a vote of no confidence to any corrupt officer in government. That is, they can have such people sacked or chased from their duties in case one becomes or goes against the laws. Lastly, we shall be looking at our last organ of government, that is what we call the judiciary. We are done with the executive, legislature. We are now on the last, which is the judiciary organ of government. So we are going to have our judiciary here. Number 3, judicial organ. Judicial. We can call this judicial organ, or we can simply call it the judiciary. Now, the judiciary, this is now, we are now looking at the organ of government that it helps to interprets the people. So that is its main work, to interpret. This one we say the legislature is to set the laws. We are now going to look at that law. We began with the executive, which we say its work is the ruling organ, which deals with implementing. So this one is to implement, to make sure the people are following the law. Then we have the judiciary, which interprets to make people understand the law. And then, of course, if you go against it, they will be giving you what we call a sentence. According to what you did, they will give you a punishment based on your case, based on the law that you have broken. Remember, that law came from the parliament. So we are having the parliament helping the judiciary as well as the executive. How? The government sets the laws which the judiciary interprets, which the executive organ implements. Those are other things we need to note. It is headed by the Chief Justice. There is some correction that you need to make there. This one says it's a law implementing body. Implementing is supposed to be by the executive. So we are going to cross that. Then we say it interprets laws to the people. That one is to interpret, not to implement. And then we are saying it is headed by the Chief Justice. That is the head. It is headed by the Chief Justice. That is the title given to the person who heads it. I'm glad we have understood the heads of each of these organs. The executive organ, we say it's headed by the president. The legislative organ, or the parliament, or we call it also National Assembly, we have said it is headed by the Speaker of Parliament. Now the last one, we are talking about the judiciary. We are saying it's headed by the Chief Justice. So these are the things that we are supposed to really put our emphasis, and we don't forget them. However, we also have the Chief Justice having someone who deputizes him or her. That is the one we call the Deputy Chief Justice. And then we have other people, like we have the Principal Judge, we have the magistrates, and then we have lawyers falling in that category of of the judiciary. Remember, these are the people who deal with the interpretation of law. Now, we are going to be looking at the courts. Of course, when we talk about the judiciary, we now go to court. When we talk about the lawyers, the magistrates, the judges, we are looking at the people who are now, or who hear the cases of others. When you commit a crime, you will be taken to that court, and then they will be the ones to try you, to find out or to get your problem, and then they give you the sentence according to what you have. We have the levels of the court, and then the head. The first level, that is the highest we have in Uganda, is what we call the Supreme Court, which is under the leadership of the Chief Justice. Then we have the Court of Appeal by the Deputy Chief Justice. We have the Chief Magistrates by the Principal Judge. And then we have just the court, that is by the Chief Magistrate. And then we have the Magistrates Court, that is headed by the magistrate. The duties of judiciary, one, we have said, they interpret the law to people. That's why I was emphasizing this word, interpreting. Two, it settles cases among people. Like if you have a misunderstanding, maybe two people are, maybe they are not, there is a problem, they can be settled together. It's like when you're at school and you get a problem with your friend, you will go to the teacher. The teacher becomes the magistrate to settle your issues. So that is also what happens here. It is that organ of government also which deals with punishing the lawbreakers, which means those suspects who will have been found breaking the law, the ones that they will be, who will be guilty, they will be given the sentence. That sentence is now what we call the punishment. So that is also another one. And of course, it is responsible for the promotion of human rights. That is where our lesson ends for now. I thank you so much for being part of this lesson. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. And thank you for everything. May God continue blessing you as you keep on subscribing for more of these lessons, such that you keep updated and you keep learning right from your comfort at home. Goodbye.